Hello, lovely. Welcome to the Find a Lovely Life podcast, a safe place for all self love journeys. I'm your host, Monica Rodriguez, and for the past 7 years, I've been on a mission to learn how to love myself. Healing can be a really lonely journey, especially when you don't know where to start. So let's figure things out, cherish words that guide us, and of course, I'll share some of my lovely life lessons along the way. If you're looking for inspirational stories, conversations with some lovely souls, and a little life advice, I think you found the right place. Or maybe it found you. Let's try our best and find a lovely life together. It's episode 8. Ocho, 888. Abundance, strength in the tarot. It's the season of the witch. Happy fall, everyone. I've been having a lot of conversations sort of about wanting to go back to self and what that means, how to get to that point. Another shout out to my best friend, Kat Fajardo, who we continue to have all these conversations about like processing what we're feeling, pushing past sort of programming that because I'm pushing past programming, I am becoming exhausted with fighting against past programming. And vulnerability is something that continues to be a very, very big strength when it comes to navigating your self love journey, which can be, depending on programming, feel like a weakness. And for me, I have been struggling with the past programming of perfection. And it's exhausting. I am so fucking tired of trying to be perfect all the time. And it's a lesson that's been following me this month a lot. So much so that I was tested on it again during my interview for this particular episode. About a year ago, I was starting to feel called to, during last year, my word was community. And towards the end of the year, I started feeling called to kind of find community in actual, like, the first place I should have looked in my community, like programs, get togethers, meetups, things that were like volunteer based sort of things that were giving back in that sense, which was a perfect segue to receiving, giving and receiving being on both sort of like ends of that. And I remember looking up around this season, all these events of fall coming up, and I started looking at things to do because I wanted to be outside. I wanted to embrace the season of fall. It's my favorite season. If you ask me Vivaldi, I will say winter, but season, it's fall. So in the spirit of fall, trying to get outside and find new events and community, I stumbled upon this community event that was a workshop on showing you how to build your ancestral altar for Dia de los Muertos. I was being pulled to this workshop like I had no choice but to go to it, but it was full. So I accepted my fate and just started following the person that was going to lead the workshop and found some healing garden event through the Mexican American Culture Center here in Austin. And it turned out to be I thought it was just going to be a volunteer gardening event. It ended up being a volunteer gardening event paired with a workshop after from that same teacher. So alignment is really funny, and it happens a lot in my life. And for the longest time, I would feel that I just would never be able to find my people, or people would be just so short cycle lived in my life. And I was craving teachers. And so I went to this event and I met the wonderful shaman Jesus Garcia, which Kat and I have like a funny clarification that we say when we're talking about Jesus. We're like shaman Jesus, not, Jesus, amen, shaman Jesus. So I'll be like, I saw Jesus this weekend. Shaman Jesus, not Jesus like Padre, Hijo, Espíritu Santo Jesus. But we went to this workshop, and it sort of opened this curiosity about working with my ancestors, feeling close to them. And it dove me straight into this sort of like spiritual journey of spirit guides and ancestors and healing in a different way that I had not really ventured into because, religious trauma and all that. But I would continue to go to all these workshops and continue to learn new things. And Jesus and I have sort of become friends by just like continuing to show up at the right place at the right time in similar sort of like community events where healing is centered, where teaching is centered, where community is centered. And I value people that are also on healing journeys that want to heal others as well, because that's the path that I am walking. And so I reached out to Jesus because I wanted to sort of talk about seasons and what that means. And I showed up we agreed to do it outside, which I was really nervous about because it was the first episode I'd ever done outside. I always do them inside, but I wanted to do it outside because a lot of the events that I do with Jesus are outside. And it felt like a character that ended up being a character in our podcast. And the week before, I have just been so tired of trying to please everybody, trying to balance everything, trying to be good at everything at once. And the night before, my sugar was just like spazzing. Diabetes 1 that night and diabetes 1 that morning. And I was so focused on making sure that I set up the sound. I'm the producer, creative director, host, audio engineer, editor, promoter. I'm everything. One woman show. And I swear I tested the mic like 3-4 times. I did a mic check when he got there. I did a mic check with the sound bowl. No matter how many times I mic checked, we met in the Austing Food Forest. And the forest and Austin also wanted to be on the podcast. And when I first listened back to it, I had a breakdown because I thought it was a failure. And I was being so hard on myself, like very hard on myself, that I made it to 8 episodes and finally had like a tech hiccup. And then started processing it. I voice memoed Kat. She gave me some great advice. Another shout out to Kat. And I started thinking about, like maybe there is a reason for this. And I think, well, now I know that it was a opportunity to challenge my perfectionism. And I started thinking, like, what good would it do if I tell people to treat themselves kindly and pursue progress over perfection if I decided to perfect it as much as possible. Or while I was editing that segment, I realized towards the end of the interview that Jesus said something that made it all make sense about basically, you know, we're all moving really fast. We're all, living really busy lives. And it's important to kind of like find that grounding within that. We can't like tune that out. We can't stop the speed of our lives, right? But we can take a moment to ground. And it's so interesting to hear and sort of like visually see that we took the time to have this beautiful conversation and this really sacred place. And the noise of the city was still going on around us. And it just showed me that like it really is all about choosing to take the time to pause and not be perfect. And the wind really wanted to come in when it wanted to, and the birds really wanted to come in when they wanted to. And I just like was listening back to it and thought, I think I might just leave it where it is, as it is. Try to fine tune as best as possible to not hurt anybody's ears. But I think a lot of times in our self love journeys, we feel the need to be perfect, to master something. I wrote a blog post about how like there's no such thing as a finish line. And I realized that early on in my journey of healing, because every time I thought I would heal something, the next door would be like this whole new level of a video game. And I'd be like, I'm on. It's that whole reference, like, I'm tired, Grandpa. Like, too damn bad. That's what the universe tells me all the time. Because it's like a forever thing. Not as a punishment, but that's what we chose to come and like live. And that's part of living. And so here I am, practicing what I preach. I'm in the middle of progress. And I'm not perfect. I'm actually tired of being perfect. I'm exhausted of being perfect. I don't want to be perfect. I want to change my perspective, learn something from what I'm going through, and use it to grow and alchemize it into something that I can then water into something new. I'm not interested in going backwards. I'm not interested in staying in a whirlpool of perfection, of doubt, of insecurity, of imposter syndrome. I'm only interested in acknowledging what version of me is feeling the need to tear it all down and start over because they feel like they have failed. Sit with them, let them cry, let them throw whatever they need to throw against the wall, and tell them it's going to be okay. We're going to keep moving. And I think that's a really big philosophy in my self-love practice is I believe that I don't think you should kill any past version of yourself, and that it's important to heal them and bring them with you. And sometimes they might have a flare up and they might be triggered and they might overreact because of something that happened. And you might not be able to know who it is, what is triggering them, but you feel it. And in my philosophy and practice, it's important to sit with them and let them feel what they're feeling and be there for them, because I'm not interested in abandoning them. They've already experienced that. I'm only interested in loving them, hearing them, being angry and sad with them, experiencing those emotions, and then alchemizing it into something new together. I don't want to leave anybody behind, but they're not driving the car. I am. And that's the difference. at least in the self-love philosophy that I carry with me and try to teach others. There was a time where I was really considering completely like deleting this blog and auditing all these posts that I had written about different things because I didn't feel like I aligned with myself anymore. And I was like, that is so fucking elitist. How rude of me to say that about a version of me that was just trying her best. And that was not very kind. And so I wrote a blog post about just kind of like allowing them to just kind of coexist, because I thought there might be somebody that's along their journey that might stumble upon this and that might really resonate with them. And I wrote it 6 years ago. It might not be who I am today. Maybe my beliefs have changed, but I don't think silencing her in a healing environment that she had created to feel safe enough to heal, censoring her felt wrong. And I think it ties to just like trying to achieve this like perfect version of who I am or who I want to be. And who I am in this moment right now is who I am. And it can be difficult when people only want to see you as the healed version of you, and they don't really see you now. And so that's why it's so important to have allies of past versions of yourself to be able to see you in all light and dark. Because you can't have all light. Just like you can't have an entire season of a podcast of perfect episodes. I think there's a 21 Pilots lyric that says, "Don't trust a perfect person." And I don't want to be perfect. I want to be messy, and I want to be growing, and I want to be healing, and I want to be in progress. And I want to give you permission to also be those things and coexist with all versions of you as you kind of heal each one of them. And I'm really excited for you all to hear our conversation about fall, about seasons. Jesus even did a little minute meditation for us with his beautiful sound bowl while we were in the middle of a tranquil space with also all the hustle and bustle of a forest, of a city, which is like just a beautiful, I think now it's taken me about a week to like really think about my perspective change on it. That's sort of what a conversation is like. And I am so tired of filters and of small talk and saying when someone asks you how you're doing and you say you're okay. I met with my writing buddy, like in Zaya Kemp, this week, and we both sat down. It was the day after I had filmed the interview. She asked how I was, and I was like, I'm good. And I asked her how she was, and she was like, I'm good. And then we both looked at each other. I was like, why are we lying? Like, so it's good to have conversations with friends and be transparent and, you know, understand that we're all going through something. Our lives are going to continue to be busy, you know, but if we want to make time for the people that are important to us, that's up to us to make time for that. And so I think the conversation in the forest with the hustle and bustle and the wisdom and the laughter and the wind moving exactly when it's supposed to move, agreeing with us when it agreed with us, I think it's part of the magic. I hope it heals something and sparks a window to open in your heart.
Oh my goodness, time flies so fast when you're learning so much.
Try to count how many workshops I've been to. I want to say at least 8.
Probably at least 8, if not like maybe 10 with some ceremonies here and there. But
Toss a few
the
ceremonies in.
count will go up, I'm sure.
Oh, of course. This was just like year 0 of like, come here.
And it's funny you mentioned that. Like, I feel like a lot of people are being pulled for better wellness, what is self care, and also what we can do to harness our own magic.
Yes. Which, when I first met you, you learned this about me, that my word was receive. And that's been coming up in different ways that I didn't expect this year, that I just keep like honing into or leaning into more so.
And it's such a powerful word because I feel receive can go both ways. Like, what do we want to receive? How do we receive? And also, how do we let ourselves to receive? Very strong.
Very loaded.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah, it's a whole study. I'm sure it comes with
Literally.
Yes.
Did you have a word this year? I can't remember.
Well, the word that keeps on popping up is promise. And those are promises that I made for myself, for community, but also just in action of how I want to promise certain things and goals moving forward. I think that's prepping me for the next venture of life.
That's a really big self-love word. Towards self, like promises and commitment to self, because that's a really hard, I think, self-care concept. We commit to so much, or we're consistent to like other people and other obligations, but when it comes to like self-love, even I struggle with that consistency of like, committing to self and promising.
And it's hard because I think that when we first initially promise something, we don't know what it's going to look like. We have kind of an idea, but we definitely, see ourselves like evolving as the seasons change and as different other smaller promises come to light within that big rooted promise.
What's something that sort of has surprised you about that?
I think the level of community keeps on surprising me. The more that I work with community or community calls upon me, I find different levels of self-care on how to treat myself and also how to really enjoy myself around that promise, that commitment that I first made with educating community and seeing how that changes over time, and I change with my self-care routines and rituals.
Yeah, I think when I first met you, my word that at the time was community. So it was like that overlap, which is so cool to find. Like, I find that alignment happens when people are looking on for the same journey, and then like opening that up to helping others in different ways, which you are so good at doing.
Thank you.
Thank
you. That's still one of my promise root words, like receive, right? Like promise, receive, and
little, like,
enjoy.
earthquake.
I did. Well, because it makes a big impact. Because now that I'm learning to receive, and those beautiful, amazing notions, I'm starting to finally learn how to break it down and ingest. And that's part of self-care for me, is learning to accept that you're good with what you've put out, but also knowing that people appreciate you. And that's hard for us, I think, as humans to hear that we're doing a good job because we receive it differently at different times. And so I think as we're, on this journey together of self-healing and light, especially here in Austin, Texas, a lot of people have, ventured here, moved here in the past year to receive. And I think that's changing for them as well. So it's good to know that it's not only personal, it's communal as well.
It's funny you mentioned Austin, because I feel like for a while I thought I've been here for like 13 years and I'm a very intuitive person, as you've been learning as well. And I was like waiting for the time to be like, okay, move, do something. And I haven't like had that yet. It's been like, no, stay here. You need to learn here. You need to grow here. You need to receive here. And it really is this like magical, even like where we are right now, it's like a little, you described it as like an anchor. We can see the highway from where we're sitting, but it's so peaceful here.
I think we have to find our own space, our own garden, in no matter what emotional pull we're feeling, whether it be to receive or maybe to re-establish our commitment and our goals and our acknowledgments. whether it be to run away. Like internally, we forget that we can create these safe spaces, just like the Austin Food Forest, like right in the middle of all the hustle and bustle and so many different souls passing us. You know, that happens to us emotionally. And as a pre-K teacher, like I think this is the biggest thing that I love when a child is having emotional difficulties, because I know that we can find space on what drives them to seek internally, to seek their own gardens inside and have their safe spaces wherever they are. And when they notice that light, when they realize like, oh, all I have to do is be calm, be rooted, find my anchor wherever it is, and explore these gardens and get lost in a food forest and tell my beautiful emotions, you know, what is really happening within my own self. And we forget that because as adults, we get busy and we lose that magic. We lose that part of ourselves. So it's good to have an anchor somewhere, even if it's physical or just emotional and spiritual.
And herbalism has been a really big thing for you in your life. How has that sort of opened up new self-love?
Yeah, herbalism. I feel, to me, well, I teach spiritual herbalism, which is a tributary on rootwork herbalism, traditional ancestral herbalism, and folk herbalism that has been part of our journey as humans for a long time. And I found my anchor, I said my light, you know, within that, because I did face so many adversities and I did struggle with trying to fit in or trying to find also my way as an educator. I think teachers struggle a lot. You know, when we get our first classroom with our kids, no one prepares us on how much of an impact we're going to make to each one child. And I started taking my children outside a few years ago and doing a garden. And the physical work was great when it came to talking about the plants and showing them how to eat it. But I found that my kids were very dynamic in an emotional response where they wanted to just be around the flowers. And that helped me for healing for me as a teacher, but also as, you know, a guardian of these wonderful little, you know, baby plants, my children running around, because they too wanted to find ways to just sit with a plant and receive. So we started really talking about the essence of the plant. What does this plant make us feel? Does that plant make us feel strong so we can face our fears and our emotions? You know, or does it tell us to just be calm, like lavender, and then sit with the dirt and give it all of our pain, give it all of our struggles? And so that helped me because I was also doing end of life care at that time with my grandfather. So I was searching for something much more than just eating the plants and making medicine as a traditional herbalist. I started to find myself more in a holistic way of supporting my emotions through the plants. And so spiritual herbalism became huge for me in 2020, and it became kind of a new venture on how I wanted to teach the public.
Do you find that certain plants call to you at certain times in your life?
I think so, because plants have always been around my family, and my grandmother taught me herbalism at a young age, and my grandfather was a steward of the land. He was a traditional farmer, so I was always in the farm fields with him in the back of his truck, you know, with, you know, as many beautiful, amazing fruits and veggies. And knowing that I was part of the earth, oregano always comes back for me. It was the first plant that I remember as a child, as a baby, tasting and having a wonder of like, whoa, what is this? And oregano keeps on coming back every few years for me. And this year was very prominent. It wanted me to sit with it this year. And so early spring, I sat with oregano. I have a beautiful bed of oregano, and I just received all the loving care. And as we know, oregano in herbalism is a very strong immunity herb, but it also shows us spiritually that we have the strength to persevere, to create, and to also nurture and nourish everybody. And to me, that's a community herb. Oregano is almost in every pantry. It's utilized for a lot of different sultry and loving, beautiful recipes that are very comfort worthy. And so I think oregano keeps on coming back for sure. Normally I was going to say rose, but because I have a connection with rose too, but I think this is my oregano year.
Ooh, I love the idea of like having like we choose words and like numbers follow us in life paths and stuff, but like choosing an herb or a plant to like define the year or let it define it for you.
Yeah.
I think that's also a great self-love tool to kind of anchor into something, especially if you don't know where to start in your self-love journey. But I love that. It's a very you meant the word that you when you said strength stood out to me, which I think there's a lot of resilience in all like healing journeys, and especially when you kind of like dive into self-love. At first it's sort of like this self-care portal, and then you start diving deeper and you're like, uh-oh. It's like a healing lifelong journey with no finish line. um in your journey, what's something that you have learned that's sort of been something you felt called to share to others to help them heal as well?
As the wind starts
As the
picking up,
winner's just gonna call that out.
if-
They got chills with that question.
yeah, the trees are ready for that. The wind comes around all the time for me. It's just my element that I work with a lot in herbalism. And I think for, that's a very huge question.
Break it
But I definitely feel like sharing, and there's something that I still am finding ways to support myself and others in my own personal journeys is sharing the traditions of my family. And I do that a lot with cooking. So I do that with, because that's self-care, right? We have like three main pillars in self-care, and one is like for your body, supporting your body. But what does that look like? And to me, nourishment, I find comfort in that, in being in a kitchen and seeing how our ancestors or our elders are cooking. And to me, that's part of my journey too, is I want to be able to heal with food like my parents, like my grandparents that are no longer here, like my ancestors that are no longer here, and forage from the land respectfully and really bring honor and care to the seasons. And that's something that I always continue to learn. As we get older, the only way to receive that knowledge is through age. It is through tradition and seeing it transform every single year with those that still are willing to share that. So I'm finding different ways of self-care in that way to really nourish the body. And that's such a tourist way too, because it's like gluttony, food, but it's safe spaces for us. And I feel food, there's little to no discrimination when somebody's hungry. We receive that love and care that somebody made for us, that created for us, and the alchemical process of all the herbs, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, being put into that beautiful dish, whatever it might is. So I'm finding different ways to do that, and I think that's always going to be part of my self-care journey. But more as like fall is coming around while we're recording this podcast and conversation, we think about what it is to find comfort within our own family and recreate that for our own houses, and share it, breaking that bread for others.
But you did mention fall, which is one of my favorite seasons, and I never knew why. But I'd love to hear your answer. I just like always would pick it, and I would love to know like, what does autumn and fall, or do you prefer autumn, or what word do you prefer?
Well, we're in Texas,
Yeah.
so we have a short running of that
weeks,
season.
yeah.
But autumn to me is really the preparation, the start of the season. It's kind of like that yearning for it, and it's around the corner.
Yeah.
So you start cleaning house. So you start changing things around your own repertoire.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like the beginning. It's like that golden hour. Like we know it's coming. We know the light is going to shine upon us. And we want to feel that golden, beautiful, crisp copper connection of what autumn can bring. And when it gets here very fast, we then start to feel that fall connection of it's time to let go. And so I really love fall because it's a powerhouse for us here in the southern states and Texas and central Texas, because we get to see the beautiful landscape transform, but we also start to see our humanity transform. Like it feels softer. People are a little bit more kinder, and it is kind of like we have to prep ourselves on what we want to let go in order to move forward. And so I love fall in that way because we are cutting ties we're changing the way that we connect with the earth, and we are letting a few things fall off our shoulders. We are letting go a little bit, and letting go can look so different for so many different people and cultures. And so it's good to kind of be in community right now too, because it's hard to let go. It's hard to shed tears, but to also be in circle of what is happening in our environment. And fall is really about the new connection of harvest, harvesting those things that you need. Like we talked about oregano, we talked
Yeah.
about rose, those beautiful things that we need to bring in the house when we know we're going to feel some sort of darkness within our house. So knowing what to harvest and to connect with, or certain plants that are calling upon us, that are wanting us to venture into the next season, it's so important.
And how would you say, like, in that same vein of how the earth sort of shows us seasons change, how can we apply that to our self-love journey? Because we all are kind of like walking our own path, so it might not feel like fall for somebody that's walking into fall around the earth, but they might be in winter right now or spring.
That's right. And I feel like while this can be controversial, we're going to go there. I think society shows us that first, because we start to see in, of course, like all the shopping centers, that alignment of commercial season.
Yeah.
So we see the pumpkins, we see the pumpkin spice stuff being advertised. And to us, it's almost like kind of a reminder, like, oh goodness, we're here already.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of telling us like it's time for warmth. It's time to bring those things in. And when you see all these things being, out there, you can choose your own journey of like, well, let me create my own spices at home. Let me bring this self-care to the kitchen. Let me create my own pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah.
And let me recreate this to nourish my body and support myself. Because herbalism, the beautiful thing about it, it's everywhere all the time for us. And we get to celebrate it in those particular seasons. So if they are feeling like no the winter connections, kind of receive, what is abundant in winter. I mean, are there seeds, berries, fruits that are associated? Start cooking with them, because I feel like self-care is self-nourishment first for me.
Yeah.
And it kind of expands in that level on how else to take care of our bodies, especially those that have particular things that we're working for our bodies as well.
Yeah. I love that. Again, the word nourishment keeps like
It's-
popping out at me.
Nourishment and abundance. Like,
Yes,
I want to make a
both of
casserole
those.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and have everybody come over and
Yes.
like share it. Like one of the events that you had put together with one of your friends was the Austin Free Food.
Yes.
What
Austin
is
Free
it?
Food. Yes.
Austin Free Food. It's a fridge for the community.
It's a free fridge, yes, and it is located southbound, but now there's locations everywhere. And it was about how to share love for community and our unhoused communities, but just people that are struggling. I grew up in this position, which I'm very fortunate to have had, those services where they provided food for us. And why not provide that for our community when they need it the most?
Yeah, and I've learned too, like this year, I overgive, but then in the receiving like definition that I've been like working on, like you have to give in order to receive. And in certain ways, like giving, what are you giving to that could make you feel that abundance by giving to others and still receiving some form of like nourishment
Yes.
in that way without it necessarily being food. Because we just made a bunch of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and
Yeah.
then you have us pick some seeds of like a little seed tarot reading, which was so fun. Because I think connecting with tarot to myself, it's signs and alignment and really leaning into what are my guides and ancestors, and even just like the wind and the trees, and the earth, like trying to tell us. And I think sometimes we can feel a little nervous about tapping into those things. So was there anything that along your journey made you feel safe to like listen to your ancestors and your guides a little bit?
One thing that was very hard for me, especially in my early 20s, is doing this work and being a home health caregiver and caring for others, was that everything was a ceremony. I had to treat every single thing as a ceremony because it helped me to stop and to process the emotions, process the feelings at that time, but also support others that were in front of me or around my circle. And so when you mentioned about the seed ceremonies, and not only did we feed people, because we have to heal the healers that are healing others and bring it back.
Yeah.
And so if we're healing community, we also have to figure out what would be the best ceremonial connection here. And for me, seeds were that part of how do we spread this food? How do we spread this nourishment and grow it
I
in our
love
own gardens?
it. Yeah.
So that seed ceremony came out in that way, because we do create ceremony and space wherever we are, and we have to create that for others and remind others in community that it's okay to create it and to be in a position to be able to share that magic with others as well.
Yeah.
That kindness.
And yes, and it goes into that sort of like season of fall. I think kindness is another word that attaches itself for me into fall, because winter, like you said, like I feel like fall and winter creep up on us, and some of us try to avoid it from happening, or even like now that the sun is setting sooner and it's darker, that crept up on me this week, and I want to just like stay at home versus continuing that community that summer brings so easily, if that makes sense.
It is. It's. I think that finding our comfort, our comfort towards space, other people, and also how to reserve our energy.
I think one of the things that I really love about any workshop that I go and like learn from you, is that you incorporate sort of like you were saying, that those like seeds with intention and like meditation, just to kind of like another anchor, another rooted ground. And how do you like tell people that don't really know how to start meditating, and like how can someone meditate in meditation?
It's the easiest thing and the hardest thing for us to be in silence and to listen. And so whatever age that you are in, whether it's my K class or, my college students, or my elderly students, our elders, they showed us how to listen. And so I'm going to show you how to do a little bit of that practice wherever you are, maybe in your car, maybe you're listening to this at home, or maybe you're with a group of friends. Wherever you are, in whatever space that you are in order to receive this abundance, the kindness of fall, the transitions of community, and the respect of wherever you are to grow that abundance, you can always find yourself to listen wherever you are. And that's really great because my alarm just went off and it reminded me that there can also be interruption where you are, and it's hard to kind of root ourselves and to really bring that kindness back into our rooted self. But my friends, wherever you are, no matter what is happening, take a moment to just be still, to breathe, close your eyes, and listen to the wind, the earth, beautiful kindness of the birds singing, bringing that slow connection of fall like a river into the heart, flowing through your veins, listening to the beating of your heart grow strong like the stones of earth, and just breathe. And as we take in a deep breath into our soul, into our spirit, we send out this breath out to the sky, to the highest heavens. And we open our eyes and find a new gaze to walk forward into the season, into the abundance that we deserve, into the gardens that are growing within our heart.
Thank you. That was so beautiful.
You're very welcome.
I would love to give you a reading back. If
Yes,
you would take one.
I am open for a reading.
You
I
brought
love me
your
some cards.
flower ones that always call out to
Yes.
me, but I also brought 2 decks of my own. So what calls out to you?
Ooh. So normally I go for animal spirit right away, but the light seer is definitely calling me.
I knew it. Is there anything specific you want to know?
I'm just gonna ask maybe something that I need to know. We just opened up like a can of worms. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I always tell people, like, when I ask that question and they're like, whatever they want, I'm like, oh, you should be a little more specific or else you're gonna get hit really hard in the throat. But that's okay.
I asked for tough love, and
Yeah,
here we
you
are, right after the
Okay.
equinox.
Yeah. I will be gentle. Oh, wow.
Generally, that happens too.
Yes. The Queen of Cups. It's it's funny because to me, I feel when I look at this card, I feel like a lot of times there could be an imbalance between where you harbor your emotion and where you want to sort of set it free. And the good news is this card to me feels like the glass is half empty in a good way. That you're releasing that sort of sense of sharing emotion a little bit more. It's not easy for you to do that.
Yeah.
And I think you were mentioning letting go. I think what the card is telling you is that it's okay to release it because you'll still be protected. I've never been drawn to this sort of like triangle above her, that she's sort of like trusting in that.
Well, that's my favorite shape. So triangle. So I noticed that first,
That's so funny.
and it was translucent too, which I don't like being
Yeah.
put in a box.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like a triangle.
Yeah, that's. Oh my god, I love that. I think the message here is, and the blue jay agrees. It's so funny.
Yeah.
The blue, throat chakra, root chakra. So I think balancing those two might help you feel actually more grounded, even though water feels so like unstable. I think you are already rooted, and so it's okay to let go of certain emotions.
Oh yeah, that's full force. She's right. The Queen of Cups. She's got me. And I really enjoy the foundation of water because normally my card pulls are all earth or fire based. They're never, yeah, even though Essence card that I pulled the other day was very rooted itself. And so this is a good way to be in the water, not be scared of it, and to let those emotions flow, into those cups, and to notice that I am protected. So thank you. Right on. I like that. Thank you for pulling that.
Of course. and also in your own cup too.
Yes.
If you're talking about nourishment and promise.
That's
Because
right.
there's one cup here. It's not a 10 of cups that you're like handing out to everyone.
And I always have one cup with me all the time. It happens to be a mason jar with a chai,
Yeah.
but it's still there. And it never seems to empty, but it never seems to get full. I'm always babysitting the same liquid. It's bizarre.
It's you.
It's me. Yeah, I am the liquid. There we go. I'm the chai today. Well, thank you so much for
You're
that.
welcome.
Aw.
It's so beautiful. I'm glad it resonated with you. How would you like to be remembered?
I think through the trees and the forest. And I think like we can always find our remembrance within the connection of any particular type of garden. And so I think when people remember me, I hope they remember just the essence of the plants, not me in particular. Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because one of the things that we have, hello everybody. One of the things that you've said in a workshop that really resonated with me is, if you ever feel alone, just look at all the green around you, because
Yes.
it's a heart chakra color.
Yeah.
And I never really feel alone anymore. When I look at the trees, I know. So you're already remembering.
Oh, you
that.
already. And
So
it
you
is,
did it.
yes. You know, it's something that my grandmother put inside of me at a young age. Is that when you feel lost, just look at your favorite color. And my favorite color was always green, so it really helped me to just be in connection already. And yeah, we could always look at that color green and be remembered that it's safe, we're protected, and we're rooted to who we are.
And we're loved.
And we're loved. Always.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jesus.
Thank you, friend. And we'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody.
See, that wasn't so bad. And the sounds of the birds and the wind, exactly when they needed to go and be. But I really enjoyed my conversation so much, like I said, and I didn't want to lose it, because it's just so funny how much we want to sort of control things constantly, no matter what. And I think that kind of goes in line with the lovely letter that I really still resonates with me. I wrote it a year ago. So it's funny to kind of come back to it and read it again and see how it relates to you in your journey. I wrote it because I was sort of struggling with the idea of feeling stuck in my current life season and feeling like I just, no matter what I did, I couldn't get out of it. So, this lovely letter I would like to share with you is called Dear Lovely, Seasons Change. Dear Lovely, Seasons Change. I heard that sigh. Is it really a season if you've never seen change for what feels like your entire life? You keep asking this question. I know you're losing hope. You keep challenging the wheel that's turning behind you, pushing it, pushing against it, as if your strength is going to prevent your blessings. You can't seem to let go of the wheel. Why are you pushing back so hard? You're right. It was never meant to be this long, but you're questioning things you never have before, and that scares you. The rabbit hole looks deeper, and you're threatening the universe to jump off the plank. I get it. You want to give in. Don't. You can yell, scream into the void, or your pillow. You can say how you feel. I know it's not fair, but look at how far you've come. I don't think it's that you want to hit reset or that you think it was all for nothing, but you're getting really close to that edge, my love. Step down. Let go of the real. I keep sending you signs, songs, people, pictures, numbers. Your friends tell you what I have also told you. It's as if you don't believe me anymore. We're all screaming at you, and you're so numb that all the confirmation just feels like a lie. It's fine if you don't believe me anymore. The best kind of trust happens in the middle of doubt. But harvest is coming. If spring was an awakening and summer felt empty, what do you think fall is going to bring? They don't call it harvest season for nothing. Just saying. I can feel you rolling your eyes right now, and I'll take it. Is it always going to be like this? Yes, no, maybe. You're fighting the true voice. Listen. No, it's not. I keep showing you signs that seasons change. I know you can see that. It's something tangible, predictable. You can count down from the calendar. You look forward to it because it gives you hope that one day your season will change too. I understand it's harder to believe what you can't see. Time moves slower there. I get that. But what is blocking you from believing that the wheel is actually turning in your favor? Why are you afraid that what's in your heart won't come to life? Because it never has. Yet. Never. Soon? Yeah, right. Doubt doesn't always have to be a taboo. You don't always have to have belief. There can be moments where you feel like you want to trash everything you've ever held on to, start anew. That sounds good. But does it feel good? There are parts of you that you've tried to throw away, burn, kill. Why? Can't you see those are the best parts of you? I can. So do others. When you feel like I am not turning the wheel, it's probably because I'm actually spinning it so fast you can't even feel it where you are. Believe me, or at least try. Don't give up hope. The walls of your heart are made with it. With love, Monica.
And that's the episode. I hope you're inspired to love yourself a little more than you did yesterday, and you're on your way to finding a lovely life you love. If you want to read more about my self love journey, head over to findalovelylife.com. Subscribe, rate, and share this podcast if you feel called to. Remember that your self love journey can start or restart at any point. There are no rules. Stay connected with us on social at Find a Lovely Life, or if you want to see more of Monica Life, you can find me at Lovely Monica, and that's spelled LOVELEEMONICAA. I'll say goodbye for now. Thanks for listening. Until next time.